I've also asked Susan if she would come up for a moment. Her and her husband I've got to know over the past couple of months, and they're just fun. Jerry told me, he's like, you should start with a joke, her husband, and he said, this is the one you should start with. And it started because I went out in the wind, and they said I looked like Conan because my hair got a little out of control. They're like, you should start with a joke, and he told me that he just heard that 10 puns had been invited to the meeting, but no pun attended. That was his That's, yeah. But for much more important information, let me ask his wife to join me up here. Susan, thank you.
I do know the Mangosteen hasn't cured his
Yes,
yet.
okay.
So.
Well,
What's still a pain? Is that what
He's
you're
still
saying?
a
we say it won't do everything.
Yeah. Well, I had juvenile diabetes. I'm type 1 diabetic. I've had it since I was little. And I never quite felt right. And so we always just kind of put that on, well, being diabetic. You just never really feel very good. And so as I got older, there was other things happening. Well, I'm that much older, I was in my 20s, right? So anyway, I went to the doctors to find out why I was having so many issues. And I was diagnosed in '82 with lupus. And it was a fairly new thing at that point. So they stuck me on steroids. And so I had to deal with the steroids for quite a while. And steroids is, if anybody's been on, they know you don't feel very good with those, and they're kind of dangerous for your body. And so I kind of babied that, and then I'd go off, and then I'd go on, and then I'd think, I can't because I'm raising 4 little kids, so I just need to do what I need to do. Well, I started seeing the doctor regularly for the lupus, and then every time I go in the doctor's office, I came out with some other disease they had discovered. I was to the point where I didn't want to deal with the doctors anymore, because then they'd put me on other medications which would make something else happen. It was just, a volleyball. And so with lupus, a lot of times you will get Sjogren's, Raynaud's. That kind of comes with it, which is itself is tiring. And then in about 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with celiac. Well, I've still had some kind of feeling that things just weren't really right, and so I went back and they ran some more tests, and they said, well, you have fibromyalgia too. And so I was getting to the point where I didn't want to deal with doctors. I didn't want to hear anymore. And so they had put me on, of course, the steroids and cortisone shots, and then they put me on antidepressants, trying to help the pain, help the achiness, and all that did was cause more issues. Just too much medication into your system, it just wasn't healthy. And I went to California to see my son about 1.5 years ago, and I'd accidentally left the antidepressant at home. I took all my medications but left that. So just in the 5 days I was gone, I started going through withdrawals. And I told my husband, I said, I can't do this to myself anymore. I'm going off that, I'm going off the steroids, I'm going to go off everything. And so when I was laying in bed, I was thinking, I've got to figure out some way to stop this pain. I have a job that's really intense. I work 24/7, and I would go to work, and about noon, 1 o'clock-ish, I was done. I was so tired, I didn't know how I was going to get home. So I'd struggle home, and had to have my phone by me because I'm on call, and I would go into the family room, and I'd sit down in the lounge chair, and that was it. I was done. That was all I could do. And my husband and I, we liked to dance, and that was ended. We couldn't do that. And then my fingers would start getting stiff, and I couldn't bend them. Well, of course, it was this finger that was the one that was always upright. And so when I would reach for something from somebody, I would have my hand out, look like I was flipping them off, which was okay when it was my husband. We're in the community at church and work, you just don't go around flipping people off. And so on a Friday night, we went over to Mary Ann's. She called us, and I told my husband, I said, I don't want to do this. This snake oil stuff, I don't want to hear it. Everybody tells you do this, do that, do this. And I said, it's just a waste of my time. I just don't want to do it. And I said, but I love Mary Ann, we'll go. She won't lead me astray. And so we went over to Mary Ann's, and Dwayne was there. And I kept telling Derek, let's just go, get it over with, go home. And so we went in, and Dwayne started talking, and it just felt right. What he was saying felt very, very right. And I was told my husband, I said, I was just praying the night before that there was something I could do to stop this because it's just tiring, you know, and I just need a break. And so Marianne calls, Dwayne saves my life. So I start on the Mangosteen Essence on a Saturday. Sunday morning I woke up and I could move my fingers. And I showed my husband, I said, look, I can move my hands. You know, they're moving, they're going up and down. And about, 3 or 4 days later, I had the energy level that was, I forgot I can have.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so I was able to go, we went on walks, I could stay at work and I could make it home without thinking I was gonna just fall asleep in my car on the way home. And it has just been such an improvement on my life. It's just been really wonderful. And so I owe a lot to Marianne and Dwayne. They actually saved my life.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And again, I neglected to ask while you're up here, what is your regular dose? Do you take a sip a day, 3 bottles a day? What do you generally take?
Well, right now I am taking
And a gulp is acceptable dosing around
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Everybody's like, I take a gulp. I'm like, how can I quantify that?
No, I take an ounce a day, but when I start feeling myself, sometimes I feel like I'm going into a flare-up, but I don't have the pain. And so I'll up it to 3 to 4 ounces, and then, you know, cool down. And then I got sick when I was visiting my mom. Wasn't my mom, but, you know. And so I came home and, you know, started taking the magazine, and it was over with. And a lot of times at work, when anybody would have a cold or flu or whatever it was, I would just get it. I would instantly turn into bronchitis and pneumonia, you know, every few months.
Oh,
And I haven't had that at all since I've started on this, so.
okay, thank you for
Great.
sharing. For those of you on the other side of the camera, if you weren't able to hear, she said that she's still doing an ounce a day. When she starts feeling a flare-up come on, she ups it, did you say 3 or 4 ounces? You're better than I. I up to a couple of bottles when I feel a flare on. I'm like sucking the stuff down.